Hello. Today we will do a brief lecture on comparisons of SPT and CPT. SPT is standard penetration test and CPT is cone penetration test. Both methods are used to find out the soil stratification for a project. There are some advantages and disadvantages for the both methods. These are the most common methods that we use in order to find out the soil property, soil investigations for a project. So first of all, SPT, which is stands for the standard penetration test. Um, the advantages are you can obtain representative soil sample, and these soil samples could be further used for the laboratory testing. SPD can provide the boreholes for other field testing, such as wind shear test. Is able to penetrate through the denser granular soils, um, sometime into the weak rocks, which is like a shale. Um, the biggest advantage for this one is the equipment and expertise are widely available. This is the best, simple, and rugged method that mostly and commonly used. There are a few disadvantages for this. It does not provide continuous soil data, but rather at intervals could miss thin and problematic soil stratums. The reason why it missed some samples is like in practice, geotechnical engineers prefer to take continuous samples for the first 10 to 12 feet below the grade. And after that, every sample is taken like 5 feet interval. Second big drawback is the disturbed samples. Um, then we have another drawback, which is like significant variability of measured penetration resistance that we normally um, define as N. That can occur due to the considerable variation of apparatus and procedures. Now we'll go move to the other method, which is CPT, stands for the cone penetration test. There are a few advantages. One, it can provide the entire subsoil profile and is considered the best technique for delineation of stratigraphy. It is fast, economical, and productive. It can eliminate operator errors and can provide reliable and repeatable test results. Particularly, it is suitable for the soft soils. If we hit the boulder or harder layer gravel, we might hit the refusal. There are a few disadvantages for the CPT method. It cannot obtain the soil samples for further laboratory tests and verifications. Um, it cannot penetrate dense granular soils such as cobbles. It's totally unsuitable for gravels, boulders, deposits. It has like a very high capital investment, and you require a skilled operator to run the rig or machine and on the cup and the software. Electronic noise of data requires calibration. Then for the CPT, that was about the comparison, but there is this formula that we use for the most part for the CPT. The formula is friction ratio, which is a ratio between the skin friction and the tip resistance. Skin friction is normally denoted as FC and tip resistance is denoted as QC. And in the field, during the test, we have these electronic sensors that provide us these values. Once we have the values, then we could plot these values to determine the soil classification. There is a chart, simplified soil classification chart for standard electric friction cone. And so, so basically friction ratio is here, which is in percentages. The formula is right here. And the other one is cone resistance, QC. As normally the units are bars. So when we plot the values on this chart, we could, based on these properties, we could tell like what kind of soil it is. This is sands, silty sand, sandy silts and silt, clay silts, and silty clays. And based on these values, I mean, there are some general statements that can be said about the CPT data. For example, for gravelly sand, very low friction ratio and very high tip resistance. And for sand, sandy soil, low friction ratio, tip, tip resistance, moderate tip resistance. Sandy silt or silty sand, moderate friction ratio and moderate tip resistance. Clays, high friction ratios and low tip resistance. Peats and organic silts and clays, very low friction ratio and very low tip resistance. Peat and organic clays are not suitable for bedding materials.